Sorry, taking me a few seconds. 3, 2, 1, stream. Hello, it's that time again. It is Monday evening, and it is time for our weekly Euro show. Welcome to the Anglo-Italian pod. I am, as always, I'm Rory Sean Criscuolo. You can follow us on Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod. Tommy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and as always, I'm Tommaso Damian. You can find us on Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod. Rory, how was your weekend?
It was good. It was a bit of a hazy one. I kind of spent most of Sunday with you and your fine lady, so that was a nice day.
Thank you very much. I'm sure she'll be delighted to hear these words.
Well, it's my pleasure. It was a really nice day. We had a few beers, relaxed. You had a better afternoon than me, I think. But I think we'll get on to that. But beyond that, my weekend was good. Yeah, nice chilled. Things are starting to loosen up in Milan, so that's quite nice. Things are feeling a bit more free,
There is that feeling in the air, right? That something is just changing. Like, I don't know, we're going slowly back to normal, but at the same time, we've gotten used to big illusions. So I don't know.
yeah. Well, that's it. I really don't want to get my hopes up at this point. But they've announced like the big plan in the UK today, so hopefully we won't be too far along. I'll be honest, the word of like pubs being open back in the UK got me jealous as fuck, and I was like, Christ, Italy better not be far long behind, otherwise I'll be flying back to the UK pretty quick, I'm telling you.
Nice. Rory, we've got a few guests. So we're trying out big things on Twitch. We're like trying to use it. It's supposed to be used, I guess. I don't know.
With varying levels of success, but we're trying. Yeah.
We don't give up. Gen Z thought they had the best of us, but no, we're not giving up. We're picking up our swords and shields and we're fighting to get better on Twitch. So we've got two guests coming on today. One is going to discuss thoroughly the Premier League with Rory and myself. And the other one is actually an Italian guy who's just started on Twitch, just like us, with a little more success. But we'll cover Serie A. And of course, we also have Champions League games to preview. But first, it was a crazy-ish weekend all over Europe.
It was. There was quite a few results as the goals were flying in that I was like, holy crap. And I think we talked about this maybe on Saturday, I can't remember, but I was saying this is the best round of fixtures that I'd seen in the Premier League for quite a long time. And it feels like around Europe, none of the games really disappointed. Where are we going to start off, Tommy? Because I think both Germany and France are equally as exciting at the moment.
Yeah, but I would start from Spain, probably with an apology to Atletico Madrid and the Colchoneros family. Yes, we have pushed them maybe a little too much in our podcast. We have backed them up a little too much. And maybe from an Arsenal fan and an Inter fan who've known a lot of hard times during their years, maybe it wasn't the best of supports. And Atletico Madrid lost crucial points in a very unexpected way against Levante. And that was one of the biggest upsets. And I feel like we owe Atletico Madrid fans an apology.
Well, we've just had Sete Costanza come and say, yes, please, apologize. Brutal. We have definitely put the crux on Atletico, and the bad luck from our team seems to be contagious. But I've always said Arsenal are contagious.
So yeah, Atletico Madrid lose key points in La Liga and Real Madrid are right behind them. All of a sudden, they're right behind. Atletico Madrid still have one game in hand against Athletic Club. Is that it, Rory? We kind of struggle to find out the information.
Yeah, it is. It's against Athletic Bilbao. It's on the 10th of March on a Wednesday, I want to say. So that will be an interesting one. Bilbao are always really hard to predict. They're always a team that they're either like amazing or they're struggling. And I think this year they're struggling a little bit, but it's definitely like the Atletico fans will not be counting the 3 points before they're in the bag, I feel.
Exactly. And right before that game, there is the game against Real Madrid on March 7th. So the league says Atletico Madrid first at 55 with that game in hand, and Atletico Madrid second at 52 points.
Well, this is the thing. And sorry, just quickly, and mentally, like Atletico always lose to Real. Like no matter how good form Atletico are in, how bad form Real are in, they always do badly against them. So
And maybe this time they will win, since we apparently say things the other way around. Maybe this time.
That's the way it works.
Maybe this time. And then Real Madrid picked up a win, and Barcelona, unfortunately, lose other points, and they manage only to tie a game. And since we're talking about La Liga, as we are speaking, Osasuna are playing Sevilla 0-0 at the 6th minute. Rory, what did you make of Barcelona's draw with a penalty by Messi? It was kind of poor.
It was laboured, right? I feel like the mix of midweek action and the depression of being battered at home in the Champions League probably doesn't make a great mix. From what I saw, the highlights very uninspiring. Barcelona had been on a very good run, much like Real Madrid have been winning all their games. But I feel like we're going to see more teams form kind of struggle as the Champions League comes back. And maybe this is something that was big this week in a few of the results, that the teams were still recovering from travelling around to random parts of Europe. And maybe that's not great for players' health. Who'd have thought it?
Yeah, and of course we'll break down more Atletico Madrid with Gav when we'll talk about the upcoming fixture in the Champions League, Chelsea against Atletico Madrid, which should be a pretty interesting fixture. New look Chelsea against good old Simeone's Atletico. I think that makes for a pretty good midweek Champions League fixture. Rory, Germany or France? What do you want next?
Oh, let's go Germany. I enjoyed watching the highlights of this weekend.
So you said that the fun was over in the Bundesliga a few weeks ago?
I did. It turns out, guys, and like viewers, this might be newsbreaking or like groundbreaking to you, but it turns out I'm not right a lot of the time. My girlfriend would actually attest to that as well. I'm very rarely right. So, yeah, take much of what I say with the majority of salt. But it looks like Bayern traveling not just around Europe, but to Dubai, etc. They lost 2-1 away to Frankfurt this weekend. And it was a great performance from Frankfurt. In the first half, they absolutely battered Bayern. They had a player called Amin Younes, who he almost scored from the halfway line in the first half. It was audacious. But then he follows it up with the second goal, which is like edge of the box, corner, rocket past Neuer into the top corner. And at that point, all Frankfurt had to do was just keep it tight and wait. In the second half, Bayern obviously pushed more. And obviously, we're putting the pressure on. Alphonso Davies broke the Bundesliga speed record of all time in this game, reaching 35.95 kilometers an hour at one point.
What?
Yeah. He broke his personal record and the Bundesliga record for the fastest a player has been in the league.
Well, I would hope it's also his personal record.
Well, yeah. I suppose it's kind of implied, isn't it? But anyway, I want to make it sound more impressive. But the player that stood out for me in the second half, and I forgot he was even at Bayern, this is probably more my fault, but Leroy Sané, I completely forgot about him. And his assist for Lewandowski's goal was ridiculous. It's now Lewandowski's 26th Bundesliga goal in 21 games. And this season, Leroy Sané has, where's it gone? 7 goals and 8 assists this season. So his first full season in the Bundesliga.
And there were rumors around the end of 2020 of him not really fitting in at Bayern, not really feeling as confident as he was. But turns out that when the season is starting to matter, maybe he's actually showing up. And right now there are Champions League clashes and everything. So I think that would be good for Bayern to see.
Such a great player to have in the back pocket. Like, my God. Like, there's the assist for the goal. He dribbles past like 3 defenders and goes this way, that way, this way, that way. Unbelievable player. And yeah, not a bad backup, I suppose. But Bayern ultimately were unable to get the job done. Frankfurt saw the game out and won 2-1. Meanwhile, towards the top of the table, Leipzig battered Hertha Berlin 3-0. In Berlin, Hertha Berlin are struggling. And now the second goal for Leipzig, Guendouzi. So you know how I said how Arsenal is contagious? Guendouzi goes to Hertha Berlin, and what he does is he dives in his own box to give the ball away for Hertha to go to for Leipzig to go 2-0 up. So he literally handed the ball to the player. And this is one of the many reasons I think that Arteta got rid of him. But before we link everything back to Arsenal, the first goal for Sabitzer was an absolute howitzer. He smashed it, and it was one of those beautiful looping, like, oh my God, what a goal. That guy, every time I see him, even when he was playing for Red Bull Salzburg, I was like, this guy he's a fucking good player. Like, I can't believe nobody's picked him up. He's amazing. Every time I've seen him, he's incredible.
He's very, very technical. And I was talking about him last week, actually, because that mistake for the Sevilla goal in the Champions League was by him. And I really felt bad for the guy, because every time I see highlights of RB Leipzig, he's the captain. He always stands out. And he's one of their key offensive players, always does a lot of hard work on the field. 75% of our followers on Instagram say that Leipzig don't actually have it to win the title. We shall see, but at the same time, you know, they're right there. Only, 3 points behind Bayern Munich, 2 points behind Bayern Munich. So
the big thing for them was they bought that Szoboszlai from Salzburg, and he's not been able to play for them yet because he's been injured. I think if he was able to come back, he could probably give them a bit of a boost. I think ultimately, look, I'm probably wrong, but I think Bayern is still going to win it, but it'll just be a bit more interesting towards the end of the season. But before we leave Deutschland, let's go to the 98th Revier Derby, where Erling Haaland did Erling Haaland things again.
Would you ever guess that Erling Haaland, just after a brace in the Champions League, and everybody talks about the new rivalry with Mbappe and everything, Haaland scores a brace yet again, and one of them is a scissor kick. What do you even call it in English?
It was like a sideways.
You know what I loved about that?
He threw himself just to the side. It was just really weird. There was no real
exactly. Usually when you see that type of kick, there is like the leg that comes from backwards. Yeah. Boom. And he just like sort of like as if he had jumped on a landmine, you know, like boom.
Yeah, he just floated.
Man, that was a beautiful goal. And then the second goal too. At first glance, it can seem easy, like, okay, you're just walking and you go, but look at the movement that he does.
The second, he shrugs off the defender and gets that yard. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think only one thing I was going to say is that there was a big celebration together with Sancho, of course, who delivered an assist and yet another goal for England fans' delight. But the thing is that at the end I saw kind of Haaland and Sancho with the camera on, like smiling, all happy and everything. Yeah, it's cool, but at the same time, the Borussia Dortmund are 6th in the league, so this has been kind of a poorish season in the Bundesliga. And as a Borussia Dortmund fan, as happy as I am to see like the youngsters that are delivering, I know kind of that Haaland and Sancho are not going to be there forever. And I would love to see a little more focus on the football rather than on the hype that is rightfully being built around them. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, well, I feel like the part of the problem of having a young team is that they could probably get distracted quite easily. And that has definitely happened, especially with the manager being sacked as well. And now it being a caretaker job and they're just waiting for the next guy to turn up. I think it would be easy for the players to get distracted. But personally, I love this Haaland-Sancho bromance that I'm sure most of the listeners are aware of now. There was a weird video of on the trend of English players adopting weird accents when they move abroad. If you can find Jadon Sancho's post-match interview, he has the weirdest London German accent I've ever heard. It's really weird because usually when he talks, he sounds like he's from the estates of London. And now he sounds really weird. It was just quite interesting. But yeah, so...
One last thing, I got mixed up earlier, but I was talking about, the game RB Leipzig versus Hertha Berlin. Hertha Berlin, I didn't know. I was checking their lineup over the weekend. They've got Khedira at midfield, and I did remember that they do have Piatek up front, and they've been terrible this year. Hertha is never like one of the German top clubs, but this year it seems like the last few fixtures at least have not been...
Well, they're currently...
pretty.
They're currently level on points with Arminia Bielefeld, but just outside of the relegation zone.
Yeah.
This is a topic for another pod, and we need to move on. But how Germany, the capital city, does not have one championship to its name and not one decent side in Berlin blows my mind. It's the only country where that happens.
Let's move quickly to Paris. Eiffel Tower. WTF after that win in the Champions League? This loss